Yeah, hello and welcome to the first English episode of the Daten-WG podcast. Events bring people together, and in at SQL conference in Hanau, I met Valerie Jung, and she was actually already knowing about the BI or Die podcast, which was quite surprising for me because she's from the Netherlands. The BI or Die podcast started as a German only, almost German only podcast. There are only a few episodes in English, and it was so nice to meet you, Valerie. And now you're here. Hello, Valerie.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is awesome. Like you said, I knew the podcast, I knew what you were doing, even though it's in Germany, but Dutch and German is very close.
Yeah, we already seen it. It's not that far away, of course, but there is, I think that the data community, like the international data community, so you as an MVP, you know people from around the world, so it's quite global. But I also noticed there are lots of, it's still some sub communities and different audiences. So it was quite not for me not usual or expectable the BI podcast to be known to internationals, but it was quite nice. And
You have quite a social media
yeah,
appearance. I mean, I see you on LinkedIn, see these
yeah,
things. And you are at conferences, aren't you? Because
yeah, of course. So now,
that's how you meet.
now, especially this year is quite a big year of events. But you also quite well around. You've been to MVP Summit, for example. Um,
Yes.
but what's interesting in first place, we already noticed, like you, when I look at your LinkedIn page, and I recommend everyone to follow Valerie Jung, even if you're not from the Netherlands or from Germany, she has a lots of good content about Power BI Fabric and stuff. And I was expecting you like you're more focused on the front end stuff because most of the content is focused, but you're actually not, right?
No,
Mm.
I'm not. I'm not. That's what I post about. But I have a background in data engineering. So for many years, I actually did the backend of data, like data modeling, data architecture, these kind of things. And I changed to the front end because I was very disappointed what people were doing with my data. Like I created all these data models and the architecture, and you provide clients with everything they need. And then they just didn't use it, or they visualized it in a way that I thought you could have done that just using Excel. You know, we did a lot of effort to model this and to prepare this to be used in a good way. This is not the way I want the data to be used because you can use it better. You can use it in a way that makes sense, that drives action, that helps you and your company to be successful. And that's when I actually realized that you can visualize data with Power BI and you can visualize it in a way that makes sense to the end user. And I tried that. I tried it a lot. I did some courses, some YouTube course. I read a lot. And then I just tried it. And the company I was working for back then, they were not that much interested into it. They didn't believe in dashboards. They didn't believe in
So
visualizing data.
okay, they pay a lot of money to create a data warehouse, I think, but they're not interested in using data.
Exactly. They just didn't believe in it because that's how they always did it, and that was okay. And I thought you are losing
Mm.
so much money by not using this data and really take advantage of everything you have.
But you
So
could not prove, right? You could not prove that they are losing money, or
exactly
that you had
exactly.
some data for it.
Well, I created a dashboard for them and I wanted to show it, but they were like, yeah, this is not what we're used to. We don't believe in it. And I was like, okay, then it's time for us to leave each other.
Okay.
And I actually started working at a consultancy firm where I was hired as a Power BI developer. So I could finally prove that data is valuable and that data is more valuable when you visualize it in a way that makes sense for the end user. And apparently, I'm quite good at that. At least, uh,
Yeah,
all this,
everyone can see, I think.
yeah, like
So
all the
well
stuff
deserved.
I'm doing, I get a lot of feedback that it really helps
Mm,
my clients.
mm,
And then I started writing articles about it and make
mm,
videos about it, post about it on LinkedIn. And I got all these feedback from people that are saying, this is awesome. This is what we needed. Finally, someone that understands that we need to create something for the end user and not for ourselves or for some like fictional persona, but really the people that are working with it. And when I realized that, I thought maybe I need to do more with Power BI and more with the front end
mm,
and really share that and share that with the community, with other developers and show them what the possibilities are. And when I started doing that, there wasn't that much content, especially on data visualization. And nowadays, if you go to like LinkedIn and you search for Power BI dashboards, you get like thousands of hits. A lot
Yeah,
of
but
people are
I
doing that.
think it's still some kind of bubble because
Mm.
I still know a lot of people who are not any step farther than Matrix and Excel.
Yes,
So
it is. Yeah, and exactly. And that is something I also realized because at a given point of time, I thought I'm doing this for quite some years now. I share this information on LinkedIn. By now, everyone should know. It's this feeling because you're in that bubble. Everyone you know knows, but there's so much more people out there and the community is so much bigger and new people join, of course. And that's also why like the last half year with my tutorials, I'm focusing more on like the beginner, someone that starts
mhm,
with business
mhm.
intelligence, someone that starts with data visualization, showing them like the basic tips and tricks. Because what you say is completely true. There are still so many people out there that only use matrix visuals.
Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with
total.
matrix visuals. There's
Yeah, yeah.
nothing wrong with them.
No, they can be great. So I built most of my deviation like IBCS styled bar charts are actually a matrix, but there are also lots of people who are building a matrix of hell to just to export it in Excel.
Yes, yes. And that, you know, that export to Excel, I understand. I
Mm,
understand why people do that because maybe they are not that familiar with Power BI, so they can't do the changes themselves, or they don't trust the data that much. And trust in data is very, very important. So they export to Excel to make their own checks, these kind of things. So I understand why people do it, and I don't discourage them or my clients when they ask me to do that, but I always try to show them in the long term how we can create a Power BI report that they can actually trust.
yeah,
And
I think this is the way to go. Like no, not to forbid, because when you start to forbid, they will
yeah,
create some
yes,
completely other infrastructure with just with Excel. But you
yes,
need to improve. So obviously, it's not always possible. So sometimes you
yeah,
have to make the hard decision and quit
yeah,
when it's not possible. But in many of cases, you just need to ask, what's your problem with this kind of data product?
yeah. And why do you not trust the data? It's a
Yeah.
very basic question, and people often know why they don't trust the data. They had
Mm.
some bad experience in the past.
Yeah.
They worked with a product where they didn't see what happened. They couldn't check if the data was
Mm.
correct. People have really valid reasons.
Yeah. So like, but how is it? Do you think it's getting better or it's getting worse? I think there are lots of distrust concerning the data is because of the gap between the source systems and the final report. So there are lots of yeah, ETL transformations and like different stages in some data warehouse. So it's completely, you completely lose the roots of the data, and then the people just looking like an SAP or some other system. Oh, okay, this the number is here like this, and in a report it's different. So and it's urgent. I have some pressure. I have to export it in Excel and correct it manually, and then
Yes.
to take a screenshot and paste it into PowerPoint.
Yes, and it's
So,
always urgent.
so do you think that it's possible to like to close the gap or to make it some smaller? Because you as an engineer before, so it's quite interesting for me that you already noticed that the data was used in the wrong way. So it's I think it's not all engineers take notice of it, right?
No, I think it's also because I have this interest in the end user. Like, I really want my data to do stuff. I'm not working with the data because I want to
Yeah,
work with the data. I want it to have
yeah.
an impact. I don't really see a change in there. I see that from the business perspective, people are more interested in what's happening at the back end, because before it was like this um, back end stuff happens there.
Mm,
There are people
yeah,
working on it and they give us data. And people didn't care and they didn't ask, because if you would ask, you would get like an explanation that they wouldn't understand anyway. Nowadays, what I see at my clients is that they're much more interested in, can you provide some documentation? What did you do? They want to see what is going on. But then still, from the backend perspective, people need to be able to communicate what they did.
mhm,
And communication is key. I think a big part of business intelligence is communication and
mm.
communicating with each other. And a lot of people struggle with that. And
Yeah, and I can
that's the issue.
completely understand it because when you're starting like in so many of the data experts are actually from IT or from former developments
Yeah.
developers, and then you don't decide for this role to talk with people usually. So yeah, it's also like quite a funny thing. It's like my own story when I how I got into consulting, because it was actually like some random
Yeah.
stuff. I was applying at a company like for a development role actually. And I was not expecting to be in consulting, and it was like a dual system with studying and working. And
Yeah.
then just the company decided, okay, but we should take you into consulting and not into development. So it was like from I just applied to be a developer, but from day one I was actually in consulting and never left it for
Yeah.
like more than 15 years now.
Yeah.
So it was by accident, but I think there are many of people who actually get into development, want to stay there, and they are were never expecting their job role to be like a coach or like a
Yeah.
communicator.
Yes. And I think nowadays uh, it is very important to also be clear about that. On LinkedIn, I'm a lot on LinkedIn. I see quite some articles where people say, like, how to get started in business intelligence, how to get started as a Power BI consultant or as a consultant. And then they give you like these 10 tools you need to learn. And no one ever mentions that you have to have some communication skills.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah, and I
need
think
to be
it's
able.
also important to not only to say how to start, but also why to start, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Why do you want to do it? Like,
yeah.
do
So
you
for
actually like to guide people and help them,
mm,
or do you want to just work in the data? And I think there are
mm,
jobs where you can do that too. But business intelligence mostly is about getting information
mm,
across from the back end to the front end to the
yeah.
business.
Yeah, so for you, it's also another question I've got from your story or about your story is when you changed the role. So I think in your
Mhm.
second role, you've been the Power BI
Mhm.
developer. Do you also had peers on the data warehouse side, and how Are they different than you actually have been before, or how was the work from the other perspective? Do you learn something new from this actually, to working with data warehousing people? Be-
Yes, it was interesting because when you're always working on the back end, you get this we against them feeling. At least I that feeling like we do data engineering, we create the data, and there's the business and the front end, and they don't know what they want. They never know what they want. And the funny thing is, when you go and work more on the front end and with the business together, they say the same stuff like, yeah, backend doesn't know what they're doing. They have
Mhm.
no clue. They don't understand us and they can't explain what they're doing. So people are constantly making assumptions about each other. And the biggest one is that both sides are telling they have no clue what they're doing and they don't want to work together with us. And that's such a hostile like mindset because if you communicate with that in your head with each other, you
Mhm.
will never find common ground because you think I'm explaining this to this person, but they don't understand anyway. And the other person is like, oh,
Mhm.
they're explaining something, but they don't know what they're doing anyway. So for me, it helped to better communicate because I knew how people felt on both sides. So it was easier to communicate, but it was also easier for me if I needed something like a new table or a new column or something
Mhm.
in the data warehouse. I could tell exactly what I need, where it
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
be, when,
Didn't-
and
That's
how it should
definitely a benefit. Yes.
yeah, which makes it much easier. And I think nowadays we, of course, have Fabric where we have
Mhm.
everything in one environment. I think that will also help people
Yeah.
to communicate better with each other because you can actually see the stuff
Mhm.
that's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and I also think we should not underestimate the power. Some stuff feels like, okay, there's a common platform, okay, but what does it mean actually? It reduces the communication overhead because I think some educated guesses of developers are coming from it's too hard to talk to the business users, they're stupid, they're not available. So let's make an educated guess for this use case, and then it's wrong. And the business users on the other side also say, "Oh, I don't want to talk with these developers. They're so unfriendly and always tell me to create a ticket and to
Yeah,
describe everything. Why they don't understand? It's so much easier for me to export to Excel and to fix it by myself."
yeah,
But what they really want is like to have a solution that works.
yeah,
And I think when both of them just make a few steps in a direction, so like the further former Excel workers like take Power BI and start with actually a little bit of modeling, and experts, the IT also see this on the platform and say, okay, so definitely some communication overhead that should be reduced just by have this kind of transparency on
yes,
one single platform.
yes, yes. And I also think communication in general should be encouraged more in
Yeah, yeah,
teams.
definitely. I also think that it will not like abolish communication at all, and it's everything
Mm,
is done by the platform. That's not the case, but I think it's easier to explain stuff when you see it on a common platform. And even
yeah,
Power BI before was like a large benefit, I think, to everything we had then, because before Power BI, like when I am coming more from the business side. To look at the data. And then before Power BI, it was almost like we have the queries, and then we have some kind of front end,
yes,
mostly Excel or Google Sheets or something.
yeah,
So it's very a gap. And in Power BI, it was like so intuitive to yeah to fix some stuff like live with the customer and see, okay, this is how it should look, right? Okay, now we can extend the model a little bit, and then you know that you have to fix the model, of course, and
Yeah.
to make stuff right. But it was still so much easier to communicate when you actually see the real stuff and the interactive stuff. And this
Yeah.
is what I expect from Fabric to also close the gap a little bit more.
Yes. Yes. Bring it all together and make it easy to communicate about it, easy to show
Mm.
what's going on, these kind of
So,
things.
so how is your experience like with clients who are actually using Fabric? How much is there like the engagement of them? Because I also had some, yeah, maybe I was very idealistic in the start and was thinking, oh, now all the business users will use a lakehouse and create shortcuts and create their own model. But yeah, it was not like that actually. It was. I'm quite happy to get them even a little bit more involved and to have some of the files stored there on a common platform. And it's really like some baby steps
Yeah.
I experienced.
Yeah, but it's always because it's still relatively new. Of course,
Mm,
for us, it's not that new, but for the general business user, they now
mm,
see like the advertisements or they hear other companies that have done the same. In the Netherlands, luckily, we are quite fast in adopting new
mm,
technologies. So I had quite some clients where I could do Fabric implementations. And what I'm seeing is that they're really open for new things, but you need to be careful because could do whatever I want and they would accept it as the truth because they don't know
yeah.
themselves how it works, of course. And I think that's something all consultants should be aware of. And I see that a
Mm,
lot with other
yeah.
consultants that are telling me, "Oh, I work with a client and I just try stuff," and they just use the client as some trial for how it works.
Mm,
But that's also dangerous because if they put something there that's not safe or not working
mm,
correctly, the client will not know. But in general, um, they will if people want to use Fabric, they're very open to all the new possibilities, but you need to show them. You need to
mm,
explain them because often they don't know. Often they only know what they implemented 10 years ago that worked
mm,
fine.
mm.
Now you are here with your cloud solution and you're telling them this is much better. But it's important to really
Mm.
tell them what's going
Yeah,
on.
but it's very hard to introduce Fabric like feature by feature because there's a lot of
Yes.
so it's always like I think it's too much for the people when you show everything, and I completely feel you when you say, okay, when you like just for example focus on your notebooks are much more efficient than data flows. You should use only notebooks, and then there's the business users sit there. Okay, it's
Yeah.
I never used Python before, so maybe it's not the right tool for us. So it's definitely some kind of you have to find like the mm, right
The right
feeling for it.
fit.
So I have some clients that are only using data flows because they're used to, even
Yeah.
if they're completely aware it's not the most efficient way. But yeah, we want to keep our skills, and the people that were building Power BI data sets before are now in Fabric, but they need to keep their like look and feel and
Yeah.
cannot switch to notebooks immediately. There are other clients who are already more focused on the new stuff, but it's really different. So it's great that there's so much options in Fabric, but they also have to, yeah, I think, but this is the value of consulting to, I think, to
Yes.
see what fits with the client and then to introduce exactly the right features and not everything, like to make
Yes.
a
Yeah.
training over 8 weeks where you have one feature each day, and but nobody will care.
No.
Mm,
No, they will lose interest.
yeah.
But I think something I did at some of my clients was I introduced them to the Fabric in a Day
Mhm.
training. Like you have Microsoft offers these trainings. It's
Mm,
kind of like a dashboard in a day for Power BI, but then Fabric in a day. Or they also have one specific for real-time intelligence, for example.
mm.
And a day is like the amount of time they're willing to spend,
Yeah.
especially the virtual ones, because you don't need to be at the location. They
Mm,
just can look at it at one screen and do other
mm.
stuff while still getting the information. And at least that gives the business some idea about what the possibilities are, which makes it easier to discuss them.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's true. But for me, it was always this something in a day. It's more about sales than about
Yes.
real education, because I think education, especially in data, it should be continuous.
Yes.
So you need to, you have to deliver support when it's necessary. You have to do it on a regular basis. It have to be
Yeah.
part of routines for the people. And I completely accept that it's not the main focus area for most people, like for us. For us, data is like the center of our professional work. For most people, that's not.
No.
But you still have to adjust, right? Okay, when someone only has 1 day per week to work with data and has other stuff to do, okay, that's fine. Then let's support this 1 day and look, okay, well, what's not working? And
Yeah.
also for your example with the legacy solutions, when you're coming, right, oh, I have this new tool in the cloud, and here you can watch Satya Nadella on stage
Yeah.
showing it. I don't think they will care so much. I think you should more ask, what's slow, what's wrong with your current, and even if they say that's nothing wrong, then just yeah, just drink a coffee with the people and let them talk. What are the daily problems? So I think more problems have to do with data actually than they would express.
Yes. 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 Yeah, and that's a good point here. Let them talk. I think that's so important, and something I saw when I worked in consultancy. Often we had these meetings and you have like half an hour, um,
Mm,
because everyone's busy. And then we were prepared with all these questions, like we need answers to these 10
yeah,
questions. And then it's really like, okay, question
mm,
one, question two, question three, okay, time's up. And then you almost never get the real response. They just give you like everything that's on top of their mind, like, oh yeah,
mm,
data quality is bad, this team is not communicating, these kind of things. But if you really let them talk and let them explain the processes, like what are you doing every day, and how are you using data,
mm,
and what are certain points of time during a day that you're using data, and are there bottlenecks, these kind of things. And then when they explain, you get so much more information.
yeah. But that's also a problem, right? You're a freelance consultant right now,
Yes.
right? And my company is also not that big, so and many companies are not willing actually to pay you for this kind of coffee drinking stuff and
Yes.
let the people talk and yeah, just pay me for being there on site for some days and talk with
Yeah.
people. They say no. We
Yeah.
have some legacy system and we want an AI ready data platform. And this these are the 10 bullet points.
Yes.
And what works, so you always have to adjust a little bit, right? To say, okay, I can deliver this benefit. And then you got involved, also get involved with the people. And
Yeah.
so one step after another, you will get this information. But
Yeah.
it's, I think it's not the perfect world where you first like. I think the perfect world for requirements gathering would be to work with the people for 1 week, just
Yes.
in their regular jobs.
Yeah. 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 So what I'm doing is often like a first meeting with my clients I do in my own time.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so this whole coffee drinking stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Just like I also like we have this 1 hour, like 1 hour for free. You can book
Yeah.
me. No, nobody does actually from the website.
Oh,
I'm quite sad about it. So I got some
oh,
LinkedIn messages about how you can help with Power BI, but nobody before some contact before was ever booking this via the
Oh,
website. So I think I have to change it to some kind of stuff. I will deliver free support for 1 hour.
then they
And
contact you.
that's what I'm decided about, and maybe to even put it in a web shop with
Yeah,
€0 and
yeah,
just say, okay, you can buy this 1 hour, because I think the problem is for this like quick call and some quick connect requirements. All people expect some sales
yes,
stuff in this, and that's why they are not willing to do it. So it's also quite some hard thing between, of course, it's sales,
yeah,
but you also have to talk about the real problems and what bothers people, and not just show your products and
yeah,
just show some fancy slides.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. And you should post it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I will change it. Like now, I'm quite busy with some event and demo stuff. But when I change this, I will definitely post my resume about this one free impulse talk hour, that it's not
Yeah,
working, and yeah, we try something different.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean, it's a great idea.
when the podcast will be out, it will be already there.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, Valerie. So it was so nice to talking with you. And yeah, when I look at the time, we're already above the 30 minutes. So if you have anything left to say, just say. And from my side, I can only say thank you. Thank you for coming here, and maybe meet again. And at some
yes.
other event stuff, I think we definitely will.
Yes, we will meet again because I'm at a
Yeah.
lot of conferences, you are at a lot of conferences. So we will meet again.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. This was fun. I can really
Yeah.
encourage everyone to join this podcast because this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks.